Thank goodness, said Bilbo laughing, and handed him the tobacco jar. Wow, that was a really good book. Well, time to ruin my day by watching The Last Jedi. I mean, it can't be as bad as I remember. I mean, I only saw it one time. Okay, here we go.
About his mother.
Open fire!
Oh, God. So I decided to rewatch The Last Jedi, and the only reason I thought about this is because the director of The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson, came out in an article and said this about his Star Wars movie. Quote, "I'm even more proud of it 5 years on," he said. Damn, that was a long time ago. "When I was up to bat, I really swung at the ball. But from my opinion and what I could remember of the movie, he didn't so much as step up to the plate and swing at the ball, as he did just kind of stand there and strike out immediately and do nothing. First, let me say I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Me and my brother, we had the original trilogy and the VHS tapes, if anyone remembers what VHS tapes are. And we also had the DVD collection of the prequel trilogy. So, say what you want about any of those movies, me and my brother watched them more times than I could remember, and we loved them. And then we saw The Force Awakens in theaters, and despite what people may think about that, I loved it, and my brother loved it, and we just had a really good time watching it together. And yes, I know that The Force Awakens is a retread of The New Hope, and I know it's just following the same story beats, but it was an enjoyable movie. It was a good way to do a reboot. It wasn't great, it wasn't terrible, it was a good reboot. That's what I thought about it. So my brother and I, we were excited to see the path that Disney had chose for Star Wars, the path that they had obviously planned out, because how could you be so stupid to not plan something out like this? And surely, Disney had it all figured out. Then I saw The Last Jedi, and I'll never forget walking out of the theater and just being confused. But not confused as to like what was happening in the movie, confused to what I thought about the movie. And after that, I came to the horrible realization that I did not like this movie at all. The reason I was confused is because I love all Star Wars movies, and I walked out of that not enjoying it, but my mind was trying to say like, no, you like this, you love Star Wars. But it just wasn't good. But the whole point of this is that I never went back and gave it a second chance. I never rewatched it. This was the only Star Wars movie ever in history that I watched one single time. Now, the hate against The Last Jedi, there's really no secret. People have pretty much made their YouTube careers on dumping on this movie. But after reading this article from our friend Rian, I really wanted to give this a second chance. I wanted to give it a second thought. I wanted to take a look at it and see if I could pick out points that I genuinely enjoyed. Could I watch this with an open mind and actually find something that I enjoy in it, or was it really as bad as I remember? Now, not surprisingly, this review is kind of hard to do because, as you might recall, this movie is kind of all over the place. We're switching between three main plot lines or subplots. So I think it's best to go through my rewatching of this by breaking it down into the three main subplots and then look at the end of it. What I know from memory is that these three plot lines were kind of given all the same weight. We didn't really focus on one over the other, so everything just kind of meshed together a little bit. But also what I remember is that when I watched this, there were some confusing character decisions, seemingly pointless plot lines, and things that you question but they just get passed over super quickly. So if I had to sum it all up from my initial viewing, I would say it was frustrating. Okay, so let's start out with the subplot with Luke and Rey. This was the big thing that we were all waiting for after The Force Awakens. This is what we all wanted to see. This is what every Star Wars fan in the world wanted to see. We were all focused on what Luke was going to do. And first of all, my first argument is that we should have focused on this plot point more than any of the other ones. I mean, despite what happens with Luke and Rey, this is what everyone wanted to see. We should have probably focused on that a little bit more. But the conflict with this entire plot line is that, surprise, Luke doesn't want to train Rey at all. He's ditched the Jedi code, he's given up, he's broken, he doesn't want to be a Jedi, and he thinks the Jedi Order should fall, and there should be no more Jedi. So as a viewer, you're like, oh wow, this is unexpected. I wonder where this is going. I wonder why he dropped the way of the Jedi. How could Luke turn into this miserable hermit? And the answer is the most disappointing thing I could probably imagine. So we know that the whole reason that Luke Skywalker stopped training Jedi and stopped training his nephew Ben Solo or Kylo Ren was because he saw a little bit of darkness in Ben Solo. Well, actually, as it's described in the movie, it's not really a little bit of darkness. He says that Snoke has influenced him, and now Ben Solo has darkness in him. So Luke has this idea, a fleeting one, but he still has this idea that he's going to murder Ben Solo in his sleep, his own nephew. But this just doesn't make any sense. Because now we have Luke Skywalker, who his own nephew, he sees darkness in him, but then he wants to murder him. Even the thought of that, even the thought of Luke having that idea is absolutely crazy, because you have to think about it. We have Luke Skywalker, who was going up against Darth Vader, his father, who is probably the most evil person in the galaxy besides the Emperor, and Luke still saw light in him and still said, yes, I could take him from the dark side and I could turn him over to good. That is not the same Luke in The Last Jedi. It's just not. This is like a completely different character. So in rewatching this, I was just trying to wrap my head around this entire idea that Luke Skywalker would kill his nephew, or would attempt to, even for just a second, and then stop, and then Ben Solo would attack him, and then just because of that, he just decided to stop the whole Jedi Order, and then he just went off to be a hermit and just be a loser and not do anything or save anyone ever again. But even if that did all happen, I still think that the Luke Skywalker, you know, the one from the original trilogy, I don't think he would give up. I think he would go after Ben, or now Kylo Ren, and try to save him. But in this movie, the only thing we're given is Luke Skywalker says, well, I saw some darkness in him, so I attempted to murder him, just for a little bit though, and then he went bad, and then I just gave up. I know he's trying to do this whole subverting expectation thing, but it's just not good. Now that's just the first thing wrong with this. Let me go on to the second point. So Rey is here seeking training from Luke, the greatest Jedi of all time. But in rewatching this, I realized she wasn't actually just looking for training. She's really looking for her place in all of this, her place in the galaxy, how she could help her friends. She knows she has the Force, and she just needs someone, anyone, to help her to find her place. But instead of training Rey and helping her, Luke just refuses. He does try to train her a little at first, but then he gets scared off. So watching this the second time, I had some time to think about it and try to piece everything that's happening in the movie and just try to pitch a new idea. So if we're going with the whole Luke almost murdered his nephew thing and then gave up on the whole Jedi Order aspect, then how about this? Luke could have redeemed himself with Rey. This was the perfect opportunity and setup for it. Luke could have trained her. When he saw the darkness in Rey, he could have squashed it out, proving that he did in fact have the strength to stop Kylo from turning to the darkness, and he still has that power to do that now. And him and Rey could have set out to save Kylo and then face Snoke. And this is why I said this is frustrating, because you're just kind of screaming on the inside the entire time you're watching this movie, like, Luke, just do something. And it ultimately leads nowhere. Rey doesn't get the training she needs, Luke isn't convinced to start up the Jedi Order again, and Rey goes out to do what Luke should have joined her to do, to go save Kylo and to go face Snoke. Luke does eventually do something good later in the end, kind of, but I mean, we'll get to that. Finn and Rose, boy, yeah. What an absolute travesty this plotline was, I'm just going to say that. Ryan honestly reduced Finn to like a bumbling idiot, and Rose is just an absolutely pointless character. There was no need for her to be in this movie at all. But that's what I thought the first time around, so maybe in the second viewing I could kind of see why Rose is there. Maybe Finn is an idiot. Maybe both of them are idiots. Maybe they actually did something good. But when I was rewatching this, their actions, Finn and Rose's actions, what they do in the movie, the payoff is that they get all of their friends killed. So Finn and Rose want to go find the Master Codebreaker because their ship, this Rebel cruiser, is being tracked by Snoke's ship through hyperspace. And because of this hyperspace tracker, they want to go on there and deactivate it so all the rebels can escape on the cruiser and just go to hyperspace and escape. So Finn and Rose go to Canto Bight, the casino planet, and I have to say my second rewatch, I did enjoy it, and I enjoyed it the first time too, honestly. I like anything in Star Wars that kind of takes us away from the whole just Stormtrooper versus Jedi or like First Order versus Rebels kind of thing. I like seeing other planets. I like seeing other landscapes. I like seeing other cultures. So that was kind of nice to know that that kind of society exists in the Star Wars universe. But that's kind of it, because Finn and Rose get wrapped up in this whole like freeing animals thing, this whole like subplot within a subplot, and it's really dumb. Everyone kind of has the same opinion on that. It's kind of pointless and stupid. So while they get wrapped up in the whole freeing animals thing, they completely fail at doing what they set out to go there for in the first place, which is to find the Master Codebreaker. But instead, they find this obviously shady thief guy named DJ, I think that's his name. But he says, oh, you can't find your Master Codebreaker, I could do what he does, why don't you just use me? And Finn and Rose are like, sure, weird guy, yeah, that'll work. Okay, that's not really fair. They're kind of apprehensive at first, but like, they do eventually go with this guy. And here's the problem. So they do get to Snoke's ship eventually, but they're divulging all these secrets and everything to this obviously very shady guy. And the first time I was watching this, I'm like, this guy's going to betray them. There is no way that this guy's going to help him out. He's got something up his sleeve. He's going to betray him somehow. So what happens? They get betrayed. Finn and Rose get betrayed. So Finn and Rose and this thief guy named DJ, they all get caught. And then immediately, this guy who I knew was going to betray them, he sells them out for money to the First Order. He goes to the First Order, yeah, I'll tell you whatever you want to know. I mean, these two idiots, they're rebels, and they're trying to escape, and hey, you should look over there at the cruiser. They're also escaping on smaller transport crafts. You should just, like, look over there and just start blasting them. That's what they're doing. That's their whole plan. So this whole adventure that Poe entrusted to Finn and Rose just ends up getting everyone killed because of their stupid mistakes. Watching this again, I laughed. I laughed. I'm like, this is comical. This is so dumb. Oh yeah, and Finn fights Phasma because Phasma's still alive for some reasons. Like, we just had to jam another thing in this movie so people get entertained. Oh, we got Phasma in here, so then he could sell more action figures. Whatever. It was dumb. It lasted like a minute. Finn beats Phasma in a stupid way. That's it. But that brings me back to Poe and his entire shtick with him just staying on the ship the entire time. Completely wasted. Totally wasted character. When I was watching this the first time, I was like, oh, Poe's going to do something. Like, I wanted them to be the trio. I wanted it to be Finn, Poe, and Rey. I thought they were going to go on cool adventures. I thought they were going to try to stop the First Order. But that does not happen in this movie. Poe's only contribution to the movie is at the beginning, where he's flying around and taking out the surface cannons on the Dreadnought, and then they do actually blow up the Dreadnought. But after that, that's it. So for the rest of the movie, he's basically stuck fighting with this pink-haired lady, Admiral Holdo, who is a fan-favorite character. So Holdo is in control of the ship, and Poe just thinks that she's not doing anything right because she's not telling anyone what their plan is. It just seems like she's just continuing on until they just eventually get caught and all die. And it's never really stated why Holdo just doesn't come out and say, oh yeah, here's my plan, this is what we're going to do. It really just seems like they're just injecting feminism into this movie. I can't think of any other way. I can't think of writing-wise why this makes sense. It just doesn't make sense. I usually never harp on this stuff. I usually never get into like the SJW stuff. I think a lot of it might be overstated. But in this movie, it's 100% there. It's just so weird and out of place. It just almost seems like they're just saying they want to send a message of women are powerful and men should not question them under any circumstances. So again, I was trying to watch this and I was trying to pick out everything and thinking like, oh, maybe Holdo did have a plan. Maybe she was right. Maybe Poe was in the wrong. But despite my efforts, and you're going to start seeing a common theme here, I just could not get on board with this. I still thought it was dumb. And trust me, I was really trying to. I was really trying to look for the little nuance in there, but there's not. Whether it be for feminism or pointless character drama because they felt like they needed to insert it here, it effectively goes nowhere and it just wastes Poe as a character. So in the end of this, when Poe finally learns Holdo's plan, when he finds the error of his ways and that he shouldn't have been questioning her in the first place, the actions of his friends, Finn and Poe, come to fruition and they all start getting shot at by the First Order. And they all blow up and die, except for one single ship. So broken and defeated, they fly down to Crate, and that is where the end of this story begins. But first, before that, we have the other end, which is probably where the movie should have ended. So it's the Kylo, Rey, and Snoke throne room scene. So Snoke is kind of just toying with Rey and throwing her all over the room, based on the notion that she thinks that she could turn Kylo back to the light side, and he just thinks that she's pathetic. So he's going to kill her, and then he asks Kylo to kill her, and then this part's really comical. Again, on a second watch through, it didn't make it any better. Because Snoke is sitting there going, oh, I see you turning your lightsaber. I know you're going to strike down your true enemy. Oh no, you just stabbed me. Whoa, I could have never saw that coming. He should have been able to see that Kylo was going to betray him, but he doesn't. Wow, thanks. Ooh, my expectation was subverted. Wow, I didn't know that was going to happen. But I will say this, Kylo Ren is a more interesting character just because we weren't given any background on Snoke. So at this point, yes, Kylo Ren is a more interesting character, a more interesting baddie. But he's just not a threat enough. He's just kind of bumbling around. He's been beaten by Rey already. It just doesn't make any sense to make him the main bad guy. And if you were going to do that, you could have set that up, but Ryan didn't. So be it, we're left with Kylo. And then, of course, you have the whole fight choreography here because Kylo and Rey do team up for like a second because they're fighting off the guards, they're fighting off Snoke's guards. And this kind of happens in any movie where the protagonist is outnumbered. You have all these people coming at him, and then like one's like flailing in the background and waits for like 10 seconds before attacking again. They all attack like one by one. They're doing like stupid moves and stuff. It looks kind of funny. In real life, let's be honest, Kylo and Rey would be slaughtered in like a minute. Eventually, we get to the Crate planet, and like I'm trying to pick out things that I like. So there's this one shot of Leia, and because I'm a loser weeb, I thought this was kind of cool. It kind of gave like an anime Akatsuki vibe, and like Leia looks pretty badass here, but like, okay, I mean, there's that. I enjoyed that. But yeah, so they're all down on this Crate planet in like this abandoned base, but the Harbingers of Death, as I know them, Finn and Rose, they come crashing into the base, trying to kill off the last of the rebels, but like they don't hit anyone, so I mean, so there's like 12 rebels left, and yeah. But hey, what do you know? The First Order's there too because they know where the rebels are. They know they're down at that base on Crate. So they roll in this huge Death Star tech weapon. And then here's the door. And then what the First Order wants to do is just use this huge like Death Star-like laser and just blast into the door. So what are they going to do? They're going to try to stop them. And here is another huge missed opportunity here. Poe, Finn, and Rose, they're all together now, like the new trio. They're all together now. Woo. So they go on these little like skiff things, and then they all go to crash into the Death Star tech laser thing that's about to kill them and all their friends. And everyone's like getting shot down by TIE fighters and stuff as they're trying to like approach this weapon to try to stop it. So Finn is the last one alive, and he kind of goes up into the beam, and he's just going to kamikaze himself. He's just going to crash into the beam. He's going to crash into the weapon, and he's going to sacrifice himself. And I thought, wow, this is like a really heroic moment. This is pretty badass. Like the shot looks really cool. Like the beam's charging up, and then he's going up into it, and he says, you know, I'm going to do this. I'm going to sacrifice myself for the greater good. I'm going to stop these guys, and now my friends could get away. But what happens? So he's going into the beam, and then at the last minute, Rose crashes into him, knocks him out of the way, and it doesn't get stopped. Now, this is probably one of the dumbest lines of dialogue that I've ever experienced. So they're getting out of the rubble. I don't know how they're not dead. So Rose and Finn get out of the rubble, and then Finn goes over to Rose, who's kind of like passed out, and he says, "What are you doing?" And then Rose says, "I saved you, dummy. That's how we're gonna win. Not fighting what we hate, but saving what we love." And then in an absolutely hilarious moment, right as she's done saying that, they kiss each other, and the laser shoots a huge friggin' beam and absolutely demolishes the one door, the one base that they were trying to protect. So everyone else that was on these skiffs trying to stop this beam, they all die. But Finn and Rose get to kiss, I guess. But then the day is saved because Luke shows up. And it gets cool for about like, I don't know, maybe like 2.5 minutes. It gets kind of cool. And I remember watching this part. I was like, oh my god, Luke is here. This is what we were all waiting for. This is what every Star Wars fan in the world was waiting for. Luke showed up. He's going to save the day. He's going to kick ass. But that does not happen. Luke still is acting strange here. He doesn't really act like the Luke that you would expect him to act. Kylo says, "Oh, are you here to save my soul?" He says that jokingly, and then Luke just says no. So then they have the fight, and then it just turns out that he's just force projecting himself there, and Luke was never there in the first place, and then Luke dies. He's just on his dumb island still, and he literally dies from overexerting himself. What a horrible way for such a great character to go. But yeah, hey, I mean, the rebels escaped, like all 10 of them, so I mean, woo. So anyway, Rey ends up saving everyone by moving rocks, you know, something that she joked about in the first place. Oh, the Force is moving rocks. Yeah, it's moving rocks. That's how you saved your friends. Okay, wow, great. So did this rewatch help me understand this better? Did it help me understand Rian Johnson's grand vision for Star Wars? No, it unfortunately did not. Well, it may not seem like it. I really did try to hold an open mind. And I think at the end, Rian Johnson didn't make a movie for Star Wars fans to enjoy. I think he made a movie for himself to enjoy. The whole subverting expectation things is kind of what really ruins it. Rian says, oh, you're expecting this to happen? Well, I'm going to make this happen instead. Snoke was supposed to be powerful and have an interesting backstory. Oh no, he just dies. Rey's supposed to have an interesting backstory about her parents, which explains why she's so powerful. No, she's just nobody. Luke is supposed to be a savior and show off his amazing Jedi powers. Nah, he just doesn't even show up, and then he just dies at the end. You want Poe, Finn, and Rey to be the new like trio and like go around and have these adventures to try to stop the First Order? No, they get split up, and for about 75% of the movie, they do nothing of importance. And all their friends die. And it's not even about just hating subverting expectations inherently. I would have so much loved to be able to be hit with plot twists and turns that I didn't see coming. But they had to be good. Or even to take Star Wars in a new direction. Maybe Rey and Kylo do team up. Maybe they do run the First Order. Maybe Rey tries to turn to the light side while she's doing that. I don't know. I'm not getting paid like $500 million to make a Star Wars movie. But if I was paid that much money, you bet your ass I'd be able to make something better than this. You don't have to make this some like weird art piece. It's a Star Wars movie. It's a basic story of good versus evil with some deep, rich lore and some world building behind it. The byproduct, the unfortunate byproduct of Rian's subverting expectations, his obsession with that, it's just that it ruins the movie and wastes characters that were set up in the previous films. And then it begs the question, why in God's name did Disney do this? Why didn't they have a plan moving forward? Why did they let Rian Johnson take the second movie in the sequel trilogy and just do whatever he wanted? So rewatching this, it just solidified my belief in that this movie is not great. And unfortunately, I don't really think anyone could change my mind about it. And if I, like many other Star Wars fans, are still struggling to like this movie, if you have to watch it, if you have to watch it again and like try to pick out parts that you like, if you have to think about it, then it's probably not a good movie. But anyway, guys, that's just my thoughts. I mean, if you like the video, leave it a like. If you dislike the video, then leave it a dislike. But if you're going to do that, at least do me the favor of this. Please explain to me why I'm an idiot. Please tell me why The Last Jedi is actually just a great thing, and that Rian Johnson's a genius, and the subverting expectations thing was fantastic, and his writing is god level, and all these subplots weren't just pointless. I would love to know. I really would. Maybe I'm missing something. Maybe I'm missing out on something huge. I don't know. Because as you can tell, my rewatch didn't give me any of those answers. But guys, more stuff coming soon. I wasn't entirely joking about The Hobbit. I'm almost done with it, and well, I won't spoil what I'm going to say about that, but that is coming, probably the end of the month. But Cyberpunk Edgerunner is coming out next week, so I'm going to do a review on that, and then after that, I will probably have the Hobbit review. Here's a list of some other stuff coming up on this channel. You could look at it right here. So, if you would like to see that, or the Hobbit review, or the Cyberpunk Edgerunners, why don't you subscribe and just stick around for a little while. I know when I upload this, I'm going to lose a lot of subs because I had that big Lord of the Rings video, and a lot of people subbed from that. Thank you, by the way. Thank you for everyone that watched that. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed commenting with a lot of people. I apologize if you asked me a question and I didn't get to it, because there are actually a lot on there. That's the most engagement I've ever gotten on YouTube. But I understand that people are going to be upset because they might think that I'm like a 100% Lord of the Rings channel, but that's never what this was about. But I do like Lord of the Rings. I did like the movies. Maybe I'll review them at some point. But I am definitely 100% reading all these books. So, and I will do reviews on all of them. I also want to review Dune, too. I want to read the book. I've had that book forever. I just never read it. It's actually sitting on my nightstand right now. Anyway, I'm rambling on now. Peace out, guys. Have a good day. Be safe out there. See you in the next one.